Hello, I'm Richard Elkington. I'm the Grand Master of Freemasons Victoria. Despite this continued lockdown across all of Victoria at the moment, there's still plenty of positive things happening in Freemasonry right here in this state. I've gathered together some of our volunteer action team leaders to provide us with an update on what's happening. Brennand, he wears many hats. Not only is he Secretary of the Lodge of Research, but he's also the Deputy Superintendent of Education, the team that looks after many education matters. You've got plenty happening, Brennand, including a Masonic movie night this weekend. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Thanks, Grandmaster. Yeah, this Sunday night, we've got the second in our Sunday night at the movie session, where we show a short 60-minute Masonic-based movie and then have a panel discussion with it afterwards. So that's 7:30 this Sunday night. Well-attended event last time. And if I could also get in a quick mention, this coming Wednesday, we have a hosted online map 1 for all new entered apprentices. And on the following Monday, the 13th of September, we have a hosted online map 2 for fellow crafts who haven't done their maps yet.
So if there are any of our members out there, Brennand, who would love to expand their Masonic learning, there are plenty of opportunities to do so, including, I understand, lectures from New Zealand. Is that correct?
Yes, at the moment, there's actually one at 5 o'clock tonight, our time. The Victorian part of the lecture series just finished, or the Australian part, and the New Zealand part started last week. So tonight there's another one, 5 o'clock today with Brother Jack Dowds, and that continues on for the rest of this month every Tuesday and Thursday. And I can shoot that through to the office if you like and get that in an EDM.
I'm sure we can. So thanks very much, Brennand. Ian Buckingham is the Grand Superintendent of Education. And of course, there's much interest amongst our membership in the plans for a Masonic Centre of Excellence. Can you please go back to the start, Ian, and tell everybody what the idea is and how we are turning that idea into action?
The Masonic Centre of Excellence concept really generated out of industry, where people were brought together from various groups within an organisation to pool their expertise and create a team environment where the process could be. The same thing happens here with the Masonic Centre of Excellence. What we're looking to do is to bring together a variety of expertise within the organisation to guide the organisation in terms of the history and educational aspects, the ritual and ceremonial aspects, and anything else involving Masonic requirements. So in fact, what we've done is we've been looking around for a suitable venue to set this up. We haven't yet found one, but we are working on it. We have decided that the best way to take it forward in terms of which sections we work on is the Grand Library and Museum. And to that end, we have started moving bits and pieces from the library and the museum into various storage facilities. We've got 4 storage facilities right now. What we're trying to do once we get through COVID, or at least get through this current lockdown, is to consolidate all of those into one facility.
So is our Grand Superintendent of Works. What are the special challenges, Matt, in looking after our Masonic centres across the state during this lockdown period?
Thank you, Grandmaster. Yes, obviously the lockdown restricts our movement a bit. So when we get information for required maintenance or emergency works, it's often difficult to get trades out to have a look at the buildings. It's often difficult for a member of the VAT to get out there and have a look at the buildings as well too, simply because of the restricted movements. We've tried over the last couple of months, we sort of introduced a quality management system which requires someone from the VAT to go out and have a look at the required works and then ensure once the works it's done that it meets codes and specifications before we pay any money out, and obviously that's been hindered as well with the current restrictions. So movement probably more than anything, and the ability to actually have a look at some of the works that are required to be done would be the biggest challenge.
Matt, how more agile is the works VAT now in addressing maintenance issues and capital issues in Masonic centres than it ever has been? So what's the turnaround time is a bit quicker, isn't it, Matt?
Well, we've changed a lot of the systems that were in place from previous years, and sort of streamlined a bit of the processes. The ability to now be able to approve works under that $15,000 mark means that we can actually do that more quickly, so quicker turnaround. Agile wise, we've actually increased the VAT by introducing some regional members as well, which makes it really helpful to connect with our country brethren. So by having that regional aspect, we're not relying on just members that are coming from the central district or from the city. So we're able to get out there and look at a lot more areas a lot quicker, get a lot more work covered off a lot quicker. And I think we've added about 3 members to the VAT since last year. So that ability of more resources has obviously made the workload a bit more manageable.
Thank you, Matt.
Please, thank you.
Thank you. Paul Brennand is the Grand Superintendent of Membership. Paul, is it true, and of course numbers are always bandied around in our organisation, but is it true that our membership numbers are still modestly on the rise for the first time in years?
Thank you for the question, Grandmaster. I don't like to bandy numbers around. I like to quote numbers accurately. Yep. We've only been running for 4 months this year, it has to be said, and here we are just about to go into month 9. In that 4 months, there's been a huge amount of work, and the lodges, best part of half of them involved, have initiated some 230 new men into Freemasonry, which is a magnificent feat. During that same period of time, we've had 73 full installations, another 30 were given dispensations, and of the 73, 36 of those with new Master Masons. The whole problem with counting numbers and why people call bandying around is that people resign all the way through the year. COVID doesn't play a part in it. And yet through that whole period, we've only had 207 resignations. And our biggest fear was in the month of July, which is the beginning of the new financial year, where we only had 17. So, Richard, I am proud to tell you that we are holding our own, and we are slightly ahead on the numbers, yes.
What's the average age of initiates joining our fraternity, Paul?
Just over 38 years of age. And the resignations are over 65 years of age. So you can see that the demography is changing quite significantly.
So we've actually reduced our average age, haven't we?
We have indeed. It was 72 about 18 months ago, and it's now down to 67.
And how many prospective candidates are in fact banked up in the system, ready to be initiated once we can do so?
So if I quote you one interesting fact, which is that of the 230 I quoted, at least 20% of those were generated by lodge activity, others through the internet. As we go into this next phase, a much greater percentage has been generated through lodge activity. And so the numbers are really very, very exciting. We have right now over 140 men waiting to be initiated. So they are lodge ready, and everyone's just waiting to get the go ahead. And behind that, we're probably seeing about 50 new prospects every month actually ready to go. So I'm very optimistic, and I have to say I have every expectation that we'll beat all previous records ever seen.
Thank you very much, Paul, for that extremely optimistic presentation.
Optimistic but true, Grandmaster.
But true, exactly. It's not based on gut feeling or anything else. Ash Long, of course, is our Grand Superintendent of Communication. Ash, Victoria's currently in lockdown. Regional areas might get a bit of a reprieve next week, but Greater Melbourne looks like it might be in lockdown into, maybe October and beyond. What do you think we should do, or can we do, communication-wise, to keep our members engaged and involved?
Thanks, Grandmaster. I think one of the aspects is promoting these positives. And I congratulate Paul, especially with positive news, which comes after a lot of hard work on behalf of his team and himself. When we have positive news stories like membership looking up, when we have positive news stories like lodges getting together on Zoom again, caring for each other, they're the stories that we need to get out there to help with our morale. There's no need to deny that there's been some negative factors out there seeking to disrupt our good message about our great fraternity. So I think the focus is on good and positive stories. One of the things that I would urge, Zoom meetings have been a little bit slow to crank up again in lockdown. I think there was the hope that we might come out of lockdown restrictions and be able to meet in person again. I think it's now pretty obvious that we might not be meeting in person, especially in Greater Melbourne, until the end of October or even beyond that. So I think the encouragement there is for lodge meetings to resume on Zoom, even if they're casual meetings, even if no business is conducted, just to check up on each other, have a conversation. It doesn't have to go all night, but it's also a case of perhaps making one phone call a day to a brother and see how they and their family are going, and also checking up on lodge widows.
Ash, I used to look forward to getting up every morning when we were in lockdown last year and reading my almost daily edition of FV News. Now, we haven't seen that for a few days yet. So what's the plans for FV News rollout, Ash?
We'll be publishing certainly weekly, and when the Zoom meetings start to come in, the details of those, we'll be publishing more frequently each week so that members can stay in touch. And I think there's going to be a move amongst districts, not only to attend your own lodge meeting, but to attend other lodge meetings by Zoom, even if it's just a case of popping in and saying hello. You don't have to stay there all night, but to keep in contact with some of your district brothers. I think some of the problems is that we won't be able to do our public campaigns, that is in the community for recruitment, really until we're in a position so that people can see us in person. So our focus on communications really has to be an internal thing.
Well, thank you, Brendan, Ian, Matteo, Paul and Ash, who are leaders of your various functions within the organisation. And thank you from me for the great work that you, and I guess more importantly, your teams are doing. And I guess we're now able to see, if only briefly, that there's plenty happening in Freemasons Victoria. There are other volunteer action teams that are also at work that involve people like our Grand Almoner and his team and the Grand Chaplains. I encourage everyone to keep connected during lockdown. I'm Richard Elkington. Bye for now.